All right, so today we're going to talk about water storage. We're going to talk about containers, space efficiency. What are you looking at?
I'm just looking at you.
Okay, disinfectants. You've in tinfoil hat time. You're going to talk about fluoride, right?
Yeah.
You've done all that research, so
very exciting. I wish I had a tinfoil hat to put on.
that's a good idea, especially now that we're going to start doing this video. Sometimes we're going to see how it goes. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to the point where we can do this every show as a video audio podcast.
Yeah.
And then definitely we're going to have to get tinfoil hats, especially for that. So
I'm so excited.
That's a good idea. But let's go ahead and get into what we're going to talk about. Water can be, it seems like for something that's so basic, it really, I mean, there's a million people that say a million different things about you need to store it this way, you need to purify it this way, you need to do this, you need to do that. And sometimes it gets kind of confusing about what you do, and sometimes it's a lot simpler than that, right?
I think so, yeah.
So I just want to go through that and kind of explain everything to everybody, because you don't need 15 different chemicals to stabilize the water, and you don't have to, there's some things you don't have to do. So,
but I like the 15 different chemicals.
Yeah, but that's all money. You're talking about storing water.
Okay.
Like, we don't have enough stuff to spend money on already.
Right.
So let's kind of go through what kind of containers you can use. And we're talking inside your house. We're not talking the big, huge rain barrels. We will talk about that. But what I've got a few things here. But what do you suggest as far as like milk jugs? What do you store water in?
Well, what we store water in is we do have some like pre-purchased water in the regular, little 16-ounce bottles. So that way we have it in case we need it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we do 2-liter water bottles. We have a couple of those water bricks, which are really cool, and I think we should get more of those.
Those are neat.
Mm-hmm.
Those are cool because, and we'll talk about efficiency in a second, but those are cool because you can take like the closet over there. You guys can't see it, but the closet over there, you can maximize the space you're using in that closet. Another thing are the legacy water boxes that, that stuff that you're going to have to spend money on, but if that's important to you, that maximizing your space, that's what you're going to have to do. Why is it that they say, I'm curious what you have to say about this, why is it they say don't store water in milk jugs?
The plastic the research that I've done and the research that I've done in our closet, you shouldn't store water in milk jugs because eventually that plastic breaks down. It's really, really thin.
Yeah.
So the thicker plastics, so like Arizona tea bottles, those work good.
Yeah, the 2-liter ones, stuff like that.
Yeah, so the thicker plastic, I think the 2-liter like soda bottles work better because they're stronger plastic, but I think it's because all the chemicals and stuff in the soda that it's got to withstand.
Yeah, and pop is stored for longer at the factories. When you're talking about these jugs, the milk jugs and stuff, they expect it to be used fairly quickly. They don't expect anybody to be keeping milk for 6 months. I mean, it'd be nasty at that point.
It'd be pretty gross.
So they're not made to withstand that long-term stuff. Now, you can use milk jugs. If that's all you have, you got to make sure you wash them out really good. You got to make sure that you get all that guck out. But you're going to have to replace those every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Because it's going to break down. They're not what is that word? Translucent? They are translucent, right?
Yeah, so then they let water in.
Yeah, it's going to get the sun in. It's going to start creating all that.
They let water in? That was not right.
If they let water in, that would solve the water storage problem right there. You just throw a few empty ones in there.
And then water comes in.
You got water. But yeah, avoid the milk jugs if you can. Like I said, if you have to, you have to. Another thing with milk jugs and water bottles is they're so hard to store. Because they're not really stackable.
Yeah, and water takes up a lot of space and it weighs a lot.
Yeah.
But that's like one of the vital vital things that we need, regardless if we're in a SHTF situation or if we're, just on a daily basis. You've got to have water.
Yeah. Now, I just kind of thought of something with the 2-liter water bottles. If you could get your hands on, like Pepsi and Coke have the crates where they come in at 8 and then you can stack them on top of each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd get your hands on those unless you know somebody that works in a restaurant. But that would be that'd be a good way to stack stuff. The 55-gallon barrels in rain catchment too. I've got those are options as well. That is more into it, I suppose. If you're doing something that big, you've got the room, you've got the space, you've got the means to do that. So If you do, I think at that point, that's kind of where the water treatment comes in, right? 'Cause
Actually,
you're going to have to.
well, yeah, but even when you're storing like gallons of water or 2 liters of water, it doesn't matter. You still need to treat it, especially if you're going to be storing it long term, meaning over 6 months. And you should always rotate it, just like we do our food. Incorporate your water rotation just like you would your food. You store what you eat and you eat what you store. Same thing goes for your water.
Yeah, and I've read a few different things, and I've got a couple myths here that I found from happyprepper.com too. But as far as tap water, it's not all that important to put bleach in that for storage and all that, because the tap water's already got chlorine in it.
Right.
So
well, that's true.
You might want to after, like before you use it, but as
Right.
far as storing it, it's not that huge a deal.
But like with us, we don't have chlorinated water.
Yeah, we have our well, yeah. And that's another thing I was going to talk about with space efficiency and what to store it in. If you've got a well, we've got how many gallons of water stored because of that?
Right.
The only problem is we've got to be able to get it up out of the ground and that's why I built that solar charger. But I mean, you've got swimming pools, you've got stuff like that you can use.
Bathtub.
Yep, bathtubs. What is that called? The water bob, where you
Oh,
can actually fill it up,
And
fill
you
up
put
your
it in
bathtub.
the bathtub.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's another thing. Like I said, the water bricks, those are cool. They're going to cost you about $15 for, I think, a set of 4.
That's not bad.
Or maybe it's more. I don't know. I'll link to it. I'll put it on the video or something. But it's not bad, but it's not free. And when you're thinking
Right.
about storing water, you got to store so much and it's water basically. I mean, there's so much hubbub about this, but it's water. I mean, you got to make sure it doesn't go bad. But even if it does, even if it starts growing crap in it, you can still filter that out.
You can filter it and boil it and purify it. Mm-hmm. You could still use it.
Same thing with swimming pools. If the grid's down, right now swimming pools have the filters and all of that, but when the grid goes down, it's not going to be filtering it. So it is going to grow that algae and stuff, and you just have to filter it.
Green water.
Green water, yeah. The legacy water boxes that we sell at the SHTF shop, those are, I think it's for 30 gallons, which is 6 boxes. It's about $50. I'll have to look at that, but they're square, they stack neatly. It's 30 gallons. If that's one of your issues, that's kind of what you have to do. We all like to try to get away with different ways of doing things that are low cost, but if that's going to maximize your space, that might be what you have to do. So how about storage? Say we've got the water. Say we're using the water bricks or whatever. What do you suggest for storage?
It needs to be stored out of the light.
Yes.
So it has to be dark, and it has to be temperate. So you can't store it outside. If you're doing just like your 1 gallon or anywhere that's has the potential to freeze.
Yeah, depending on where you live.
Yeah. Then you could be setting yourself up for a mess.
Yeah. If you live in Arizona, maybe, it would get kind of hot.
Yeah.
But you would definitely have to put it, it would have to be in something where the sun's not going to get to it, where the temperature, maybe even something that's insulated, just to keep that temperature the same. That's about the same thing I have, is moderate the temperature, make sure it's a moderate temperature. It's no peaks, too high, too low. If you are storing it in the 2-liter bottles or whatever, you don't want to put that in your garage. Or like your trunk. We've had a couple times when just forget about a water bottle or something, and all of a sudden
it was full.
Yep.
And then it expanded.
Expands, and it's great. It's fine when it's frozen, but it's when it thaws out that it just gets everywhere. So.
Well, and another thing you can do is you can take the 2-liter bottles or just something, not glass. I would say plastic would be better, and freeze it. Don't fill it all the way, so you're going to leave room for it to expand. But then. And my mom used to do this for my dad all the time when in the summertime, they have a big chest freezer. And when he would go out painting houses and stuff, he literally would they'd just use like a milk bottle or milk, the milk jug, the gallon milk jug. She'd freeze it. And then
by lunchtime, you have a little bit of ice water.
Have some ice water. But you could also use that, like if the power does go out, well, if you have a whole freezer full of those, or intermittent with your food, you could bring those into the house and you can put them in your refrigerator, and then that would keep
this stuff in there cold, or colder anyway. Yeah. So while we're kind of on that, let's talk about, and also that's why some of the containers that you'll buy, the water bricks, even the camping jugs, that's why they're all like blue. or white. They won't let any light in, and they're thick plastic. Those are the ones if you're
High density polyethylene.
yeah, the
HDPE, and it has a number 2. So the little recycle thing on the bottom of it, it's got the little recycle arrows that, go in the arrow direction, and it has a number 2 on it.
And what does that 2 mean? Food grade?
That mean, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, those are the kind of ones you want, the bigger, the larger plastic. Now, if you're using the milk jugs and the 2-liter bottles and all that stuff, you've got to make sure you are rotating that. Not for the freshness of the water. Water is going to be water, but as long as you filter it before you use it and all that, but you're going to want to rotate that because of the container you're putting it in. That water can create a huge mess, especially if you got 30, 40 gallons of water stored. And it busts, or say one on the bottom busts and everything else falls down, and it just created a disaster. So, take those small increments like we do with the water bricks and stuff. Buy a couple here, buy a couple there. That to us isn't a big priority as it should be because we have the well.
Right.
But I don't want to depend on that.
Right. So you got to have alternatives.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have some stored, not as much as, somebody without a well would, but there are alternatives. The water bob, like I was talking about, is a good idea, except for like out here, if it's a power outage, once the power goes out, we're hosed.
Well, yeah, but we have a reserve tank, so I think it's 100 gallons. I'm not sure. We should look at it. So once the water comes out of the well, it comes into the house and it goes into a reserve tank, and it might be 50 gallons. It's 50 or 100 gallons. So that is our little safeguard of, oh crap, the water's out.
Is that just ours or
that's just ours.
Okay.
So, that's a benefit of having, the well, is we do have that. Plus another...
Give me time to figure stuff out.
Yeah. And then say, Dale, go hook up your
that
solar
charger.
thing. We need to get that well pump going.
Along with that, I suppose, is... the different places in your house that you can find water as well. But before we get into that, because that's going to be, there's quite a few of those, let's get into how much bleach. Say you've got a gallon of water. How much bleach is it? I've heard it's like 2 drops per gallon. What is a drop though?
Well, what I found was, and I went to several different websites, and I guess trial and error that you're going to learn it, but from everything that I gathered, it was 1/8 of a teaspoon, or between 5 and 8 drops of liquid bleach per gallon. And
that's the unscented, just normal bleach.
Normal bleach. Don't get the scented bleach. And then I also found contradictory information. Some said you have to have 5.25%. I think it's I can't remember the name of it. Hypochlorite. And then I found another website and it said you need 8.25% hypochlorite. But if you have those glass droppers, like in my stuff that I make on my fancy schmancy stuff, get those little glass droppers, and then each drop, that's a drop.
Yeah.
Or you can do 1/8 of a teaspoon per gallon.
And what you want it to be is when you fill up your jug or whatever, if you just kind of waft it and you smell that bleach, a faint smell of bleach, that's going to be enough. If you don't smell that bleach, you're going to need to put a little bit more, and that'll dissipate over time. So after 3 months, you're not going to be able to smell it like that. But when you're first doing it, you can. I think regular tap water is 1 part per million chlorine, something like that. So the suggestion from preppers is 2 parts per million when you're storing it.
But one thing I think it's important to mention is if you are chlorinating your water, you need to let it sit for 30 minutes before you drink it.
Yeah.
Or use it.
And that's what I was just going to say too. It's no, not that, but along with that is you might as well, I don't know how important it is to do that when you're storing it. As long as I think the containers are the most important part. As long as your containers are right, your containers are clean, your water is going to be okay. It might taste a little weird after 3 months.
Shake it up.
Because there's no oxygen. But if you shake that up a little bit, get some oxygen in there.
Gets the oxygen flowing.
Yeah. Put some bleach in there. At that point, you're good to go. Or even run it through a filter. Whatever you have to do just to be safe. But if it's tap water, not a huge deal, I don't think. Just store it. That's the main thing. Figure out what you're gonna do with it afterwards.